Oh, hi. Well, here we are. We're already at number 7. Dubarry Was a Lady. This opened in December of 1939. We've moved over to the 46th Street Theater. It's still the Playbill. Well, look at that. Ethel Merman, who always has her own hair, breaking her rule there. Buddy DeSilva, Bert Lahr, Ethel Merman in Dubarry Was a Lady. Music and lyrics by Cole Porter with Betty Grable. Hey, Betty Grable. And Benny Baker. The book is by Herbert Fields and Buddy DeSilva. Dances, Robert Alton. Book staged by Edgar McGregor. And the costumes and scenery by Raoul Pendewa. Itty bitty Betty Grable is just about to kind of make her mark here in this. She was adorable. Even Merman said she was adorable. Bert Lahr plays this fella, and he is a washroom attendant, and May is the headliner in the nightclub show. He wins the lottery. His ticket is worth $75,000. He might be able to really woo her now because he's got money. The Mickey Finn gets mixed up and he ends up drinking his own Mickey Finn. Call an ambulance. He wakes up in the court of Louis XV. He is now Louis XV. Madame Dubarry. The idea for it, Buddy DeSilva and Herbert Fields both had ideas for a new show. Herbert Fields, his idea, Mae West play Madame Dubarry. And Buddy DeSilva had the idea of what if there was a washroom attendant who wanted to woo a socialite. Somehow, those two ideas came together and turned into Dubarry Was a Lady. And he knocks himself out with his drink, and he shows up in the gardens in France in scene 3. The whole thing really is these two romping around in their finery. This is the first time I see an advertisement for, hey, you're responsible for your own stuff. So I guess the world's getting kind of real. Let's come in on this cast. We see that Betty Grable is playing Alice, and Ethel Merman is playing May Daly, if I can get over the moat of played by. Yes. The 4 internationals, I'm going to bet that they are a singing group, but it's totally a guess. And we have the starlets of the club, and they have regular names, Anne and Molly, well, Sagana, that's a little unusual. We see that we have gone to Versailles, and we come down here, the Dames de la Cour are the exact same actresses. Now they all have names. Now, I'm bad at French, as we've already seen, but as I live and breathe, I believe they're all countesses and princesses of different cheeses. Camembert, Gruyere, Brie, and Roquefort. This is the first time I have noticed this feature, New York's leading theaters and attractions. My favorite is right down here. George Abbott presents Too Many Girls. Down here, Desi Arnaz. This is his first big break. I love him because he has a very wonderful daughter who's sort of my guardian angel. So let's look at the synopsis of musical numbers. The orchestra is under the direction of Gene Salzer. The orchestral arrangements are by Hans Spielak. Additional arrangements by Russell Bennett and Ted Royal, and the choral arrangements are by Hugh Martin of Meet Me in St. Louis. Go down here, but in the morning, no. It is a very sassy, saucy duet between the two of them, talking about things that you're happy to do at night, but in the morning, not so happy. Bert Lahr was very worried that people who knew him as the Cowardly Lion were going to get offended. They start getting pretty racy. Do I Love You? Well, Did You Ever? That's retooled and reused in... was written. My favorite one to point out here is Friendship. When they did the Lincoln Center revival of Anything Goes, they put this in. Friendship is from Dubarry Was a Lady, and it was sung by these two clowns here. They really, really liked and respected each other, although Bert Lahr was a little afraid of her. He told his son, the great writer John Lahr, that she never looks at you on stage. It caused like nervousness on his part, but apparently it was nervousness that like served them well on stage, and they did have a good time. And this was I think I read the 3rd longest running show of the 1930s. Okay, what can I tell you here about the bios? Right when you open the playbill, right away, this is this Monsieur and Madame? I'm guessing is kind of how that is supposed to be. Somebody will know. And here we see them in the court of Louis XV on something, and the photographer didn't care that that went like that. Wait, this is not exactly a merged bio. This has an opening paragraph that merges, and then they completely go their separate ways. Racy, rowdy, and rhythmic, Bert Lahr and Ethel Merman have started a lot of things. Their names being identified with colloquialisms like something's going on and and with songs like I've Got Rhythm and You're the Top. At a Wednesday matinee when Monty Woolley was out front, they sang, "Are you fond of Monty Woolley? Kindly tell me if so." Yes, I'm fond of Monty Woolley, but in the morning, no. Bert Lahr, no matter what you may think of his voice as he warbles a recitative from A to Bray, just after his voice changed, he lived in Yorkville, swam in the East River, and was referred to as the no-good Lahr boy. He joined an act called the Seven Frolics, was discovered by Nick Feldman, a tailor and impresario of the Key Circuit, ended up bark, whoop, and wild halloo in Butch Cooper's burlesque troupe as a Dutch dialect comedian. Then vaudeville, playing on the same bills as Blossom Seeley, Benny Fields, Van and Schneck, Burns and Allen, Bell Baker, and Jack Benny. Mr. Lahr's first important musical comedy role was in Hold Everything, when he played the part of a wrestler. Bert Lahr talks quietly of the things he has done, of Hacha, when he was the bogus toreador with the long nose and the loose mouth, and of how the bull died laughing, of Life Begins at 8:40, of his famous satire on fraud baritones, The Song of the Woodman, cribbage boards for the West Indies, toothpicks for the boys at Lindy's, that's what you chop when you chop a tree. Lahr says he's a dull sort of fellow because he does not like to lie, but he says he plays golf like something. He swims like Tarzan, emitting violent, throaty sounds, but he's a little reticent about that. He is reticent about everything but his golf. When he was out in Hollywood, he was the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz. He was Cathcart in Zaza. As the manager who brought Zaza to the peak of her career, he gave his first serious portrayal. You thought he might be warming up for Hamlet. And it says, Ethel Merman is a shorthand edition of Bert Lahr, in that she has reached the top quicker than you can say Isaac Pittman. She began her career as stenographer to Caleb Bragg of the Bragg-Clysrath Company. Nights she sang in roadhouses, at lodges, weddings, and New Year's Eve parties. The only time she ever went job hunting for a singing role, George White offered her the part of a showgirl. Instead, she blossomed as the chanteuse of a 57th Street boîte de nuit. Oh, shoot. Nuit. Noir. Nuit. Oh, dang French. In September of 1929, theatrical agent Lou Irwin discovered her. First thing she knew, she had given up the typewriter for a 7 weeks movie contract at $22 per. The money came in all right, but no work, and finally the contracts lapsed. So Lou Irwin cut the Zim out of Zimmerman and booked her into Les Ambassadeurs as Ethel Merman. After that, she stepped up to a political platform and sang a victory march of the Democratic Party. It was in celebration of Roosevelt's nomination for the governorship of New York. She was signed for a principal role in Girl Crazy when Vinton Friedley saw her doing a vaudeville turn at the Brooklyn Paramount. This, mind you, was less than a year after she had abandoned her typewriter. Her musical comedy career started off with a hit, and since then she has never been in anything else. The song I've Got Rhythm was written especially for her by George Gershwin. Her other big number in Girl Crazy was about Delilah, who fell for a swell buckaroo whose name was Sam. Rocketing along the road to stardom, Ethel Merman next sang Life is Just a Bowl of Cherries in George White Scandals, and Edie Was a Lady in the musical Take a Chance. Edie was a lady who had class with a capital K. During the run of the play, Miss Merman, being something of a mad wag, sent a telegram one night to the orchestra leader telling him that his conducting was terrible and signed it Arturo Toscanini. Then Miss Merman left Broadway for the gold-flecked boulevards of Hollywood, acting with Bing Crosby and We're Not Dressing, with Eddie Cantor and Kid Millions, and in the film version of Strike Me Pink. She was credited with being the first movie actress to remark that hers was the face on the cutting room floor. Back in New York for the part of Reno Sweeney in Anything Goes, she sang You're the Top and I Get a Kick Out of You. The next show was Red Hot and Blue. It was in 1936, a memorable year because of a party where she met Caleb Bragg, her former boss, and called him by his first name. She said she can still do shorthand, 20 words a minute. The picture people cast Ethel Merman in Anything Goes and in Alexander's Ragtime Band, but she came home to perform for the Greater New York Fund and to give the World's Fair a good start by singing its anthem, Dawn of a New Day. Arriving on the 20th century, Miss Merman stepped from the streamliner swinging a trainman's lantern in gesture of hello. An engineer far down at the end of the platform sat in his cab and watched while celebrity-dazed welcomers and news cameramen cheered. So Ethel Merman just kept right on waving the lantern. She was the starlight of Grand Central. Trouble was that the engineer thought it was a signal for towing his string of cars to the yard. The Century rolled slowly out of the station. I've started lots of things, said Miss Merman, but that was the first time I ever started a train. Dubarry was a lady. Friendship, friendship, yung yung yung, a wop wop wop, a clack clack clack, a doot doot doot, a dee dee dee. I'll see you next time when we are still talking about Cole Porter.
Do I love you? Do I? Doesn't one and one make two? Do I love you? Do I? Does July need a sky of blue? Would I miss you? Would I? If you ever should go away, if the sun should desert the day, what would life be? Will I leave you? Never. Would the ocean leave the shore? Will I worship you forever? Isn't heaven forevermore? Do I love you? Do I? Oh, my dear, it's so easy to see. Don't you know I do? Don't I show you that I do? Just as you